The world recognized yesterday the passing of Martin Luther King Jr. 50 years ago, and while he has been gone for some time, lots of the ideas still continue. Martin said, "The time is always right to do what is right. The time is always right to do what is right." And all of you, individually and collectively, are doing what is right. You're improving the health and well-being of individuals, family, and communities. Just being at this summit reflects your dedication to become even more knowledgeable and even more effective. You truly are a pathway to the future, and ACSM applauds you for that. Let me now have the pleasure of introducing to you the current president of ACSM, who has been relentless, absolutely relentless, in his dedication to this profession and to all of you. Please join me in welcoming ACSM President Walt Thompson.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate it. Deb Reby, you and your Summit Program Planning Committee are doing an outstanding job, and I just can't wait to hear what's going to happen tonight, all day tomorrow, and on Saturday. I would like to urge all of you to visit the exhibits while you're here. It's incredibly important that you spend some time in our exhibit hall, talk to them, and they would like to talk to you as well. I went to the Anytime Fitness reception discussion. Who went there today? It was fantastic. Thank you so much, Anytime Fitness. And then tomorrow, about this same time, Louis Van Amstel will lead us in some line dancing. I'm looking forward to that. And then, of course, on Saturday, Jordan will lead us here in an IronStrength workout. I am so glad, Jordan, that we moved it inside. I'm from Atlanta. We are totally allergic to snow. We don't like it. So thank you all. Deb Reby, thank you so much, and your Summer Program Planning Committee. We'll see you. Stop me, talk with me. We'd love to meet every one of you. Thank you so much.
And now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Dr. Jordan Metzl. Dr. Metzl is a renowned sports medicine physician at Hospital for Special Surgery in New York City. Regularly voted by his peers to New York Magazine's top doctors list, Dr. Metzl treats athletic-minded people of all ages, from the world's top athletes to the newly active at his offices in New York and Stamford, Connecticut. His focus is to return athletes to their field of choice as quickly and safely as possible. In addition to his medical practice, Dr. Metzl is pioneering a new connection between the worlds of fitness and medicine to actively engage patients in their own preventive health through activity. He developed the IronStrength workout that has been performed by more than 12 million people globally and created the IronStrength Community Fitness Program, which provides free group classes for thousands of people each year. Dr. Metzl is the best-selling author of 5 books, including Dr. Jordan Metzl's Workout Prescription, The Athlete's Book of Home Remedies, and Dr. Jordan Metzl's Running Strong. He is on the editorial boards of Runner's World, Shape, and Prevention magazines, and has been featured in news outlets including the New York Times, CNN, The Today Show, and National Public Radio discussing the issues of sports medicine and wellness. Most of all, he practices what he preaches. He is a dedicated athlete, a 35-time marathoner, and a 14-time Ironman finisher. He lives in New York. Dr. Metzl.
Thank you, everybody, and good evening. It's a pleasure to be here to help kick off the ACSM Health and Fitness Summit. This is my first time here, and it's just a real honor to be here to try and kick off this terrific conference, and I really appreciate the organizing committee for inviting me and for the staff at the ACSM who worked so hard all year long to put this event on. It's an absolute pleasure to be here to talk about the program that I hope is something that will inspire you to think about your own communities and the role fitness plays in your communities. I also have to mention that the hashtag we're using for this conference is ACSM Summit, and we have a number of great prizes for the best tweets Instagram posts, Facebook posts. We have a wall that's going to be popping up here intermittently in my talk. And if you got the goods, we got the goods for you, including we have one of each of my books, which I'm going to give you on Saturday. If you come up with the most effective tweet or Instagram post, as judged by Caitlin, who is just going to subjectively judge who's good. And so we're going to talk. I don't know what the criteria are, but I'm sure you can figure it out. We're going to talk as we kick off this concept about the medicine of exercise, about the program that you see up here on the screen in back of you, which is our IronStrength Community Fitness Program. I'm going to talk to you as health professionals and as fitness professionals about how I want you to think about engaging the doctors, the nurses, the physical therapists in your area, how you can help work with these people to create similar programs around the country, because my concept is that we've had the terrific ACSM initiative, the medicine of exercise, for a number of years, but we've not done such a terrific job moving beyond the talk. In certain areas we have, but collectively I think there's so much more we can do to activate this concept and make it from a concept into a reality. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is how we've taken this concept from a concept and hopefully implemented it in a much bigger way that hopefully will get many of you thinking about how to do things in the same way. So my day job is as a sports medicine doctor at Hospital for Special Surgery in New York City. And I spend a lot of time in my office thinking about this concept of what is wellness. Everybody wants to be well. What the heck does that mean? What is wellness? I mean, what is wellness? It's some combination of a healthy body, a healthy mind, certainly healthy nutrition. All these things collectively feature into wellness. Everybody wants it. How do we kind of think about, how do we get people to think about wellness? And it's particularly important when we start thinking about what our American healthcare system is all about. If you look at this slide adapted from the CDC, you can see in the middle that 20% of what makes people healthy is their interface with their physician. So going to the doctor regularly is about 20% of health. Their genetics on the left of your screen is about another 20% of your health. So who you are, who your parents are, who their parents were, who their great-grandparents, and all those kind of genetics that come down through generations affect your health. But 60% of health is related to what you do when you're not thinking about going to the doctor and when you're not thinking about your genetics. And we, unfortunately, in medicine, give this 60% lip service. We don't do a lot. In fact, I would tell you people in this room do much more in this 60% of what it takes to make people well than the people working in medical offices. So for me, I feel so strongly about engaging the medical community to learn from you and engaging you to learn from the medical community. I think everybody will be better served by bringing these communities together to work on this 60%. And I'm going to make the case to you tonight, I hope, that we need to start thinking about this and thinking about ways to change this paradigm so we can all make our population healthier. So the concept I'm after, and if I were trying to win a Twitter contest, by the way, I would probably take a picture of this slide, because the concept we're after is this, which is a lot about the interface between medicine and exercise. As it presently works, we have two separate silos. When you want to be active and fit and healthy, you go to the gym, you go for a run. And when you have diabetes, when you have high blood pressure, when you have a cold, when you have a urinary tract infection, you go to the doctor. Well, that's crazy. We should be thinking about making wellness part of medicine. And how we start to engage that and engage that discussion is something I want to start thinking about. The interface between these two communities is something I feel very passionately about. Let's have a look at what this looks like.
I probably would make a time machine.
A little louder, please.
I would make medicine for the sick.
I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right? 5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter.
I think I'd go looking for aliens.
If I could live an extra 5 years. I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed. If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I do anything. Why are you asking me that?
So I'm sorry to show you a bunch of cute kids and tell you that their life expectancy is about 5 years less than their parents, but the concept is that we are doing a really poor job at promoting health in our healthcare system. And to me, much of the answer to that question lies in this room, or sits in this room. Eventually on Saturday is going to be sweating in this room. And thinking about promoting activity as a means of encouraging health in our population is a very important scientific idea, and I want to talk to you guys about how we can all hopefully get there together. So I'm going to start tonight by talking about the overall concept of the exercise as medicine, which many of you practice all day, every day. And then I'm going to use our program in New York, our IronStrength Community Fitness Program, as a way to kind of explain how we grew it in New York. Now, New York is a great city for a number of reasons, one of which is there's a lot of people in a small area. So the things that work in our area may not work in other areas, but I think the overall concept of what seems to be effective is important. This is one of our pictures this past year from Central Park, looking at one of our IronStrength people planking in Central Park in about 50-degree weather or 40-degree weather was pretty awesome. So unless you've been living under a rock, unless your clients have been living under a rock, they all know that they should be out there moving and exercising. And so we're not breaking any kind of news reports by telling you that exercise is good for you, because everybody pretty much knows it. And if they don't know it, they have not walked by any newsstand, any place. They've not logged on to any computer. I mean, they know they should be doing it. So we have those who drink the Kool-Aid every day. We have those that occasionally drink the Kool-Aid, and those who are allergic to Kool-Aid. And those who are already drinking and swimming in the Kool-Aid, we love them. For those people, we think a lot about how we make sure they don't hurt themselves and how we keep them active and incentivized throughout what they do. For those who are intermittently drinking the Kool-Aid, we want to think about how we can encourage them to do more. And for those who know it, but they just aren't going to do it, what are the strategies we have for them? Everybody needs something. How do we figure out who gets what? So for me, this concept has really evolved over time. Now, I spend my days, I guess my day job is people like this person. So this person on the left of your screen came in with an achy knee and told me they were having pain on the outside part of their kneecap, and they were getting some compression of the articular cartilage, the cartilage underneath their patella, and they were getting what's called lateral patellar compression syndrome. The patella was being compressed on the outside. We thought a lot about fixing the reasons, getting them on a foam roller, working on strength training, and eventually trying some synthetic lubricants in the knee to help the knee work better, while simultaneously encouraging activity and teaching them the tools of what to do. So I spent a lot of time my days doing that. Or this person who came in saying, I'm training for the Boston Marathon and my heel hurts a lot, and they end up with a big stress fracture in their calcaneus bone because they weren't paying attention to the reasons their heel was hurting them. And once we fix the injury, then we think a lot about why that injury happened. Is their bone density low? Do they have a problem with their run mechanic? Is their run volume too high? What are the reasons why they might have developed this kind of problem? So in my day, I spend a lot of time doing that. Along the way, I started thinking a lot about incentivizing activity. So this is one of my awesome nurses, and I made a pact about 6 years ago or so. Every time I run a race, I've got this kind of chest full of race medals, like too many, as Deb said. Got too many of these medals. They kind of sit around and collect dust. So I said, you know what, every time I get a medal, I'm going to give it to somebody who I want to inspire. And so I started bringing in my medals and giving them to people in the hospital, my nursing staff. And this is Stacy, one of my nurses, proudly displaying the Miami Half Marathon medal. And then the next year, she ended up and walked the New York City Marathon because she felt like she wanted to start doing that. So on a one-on-one basis, I started recognizing that I could hopefully play a role in inspiring people to do that. But simultaneously, I started recognizing that my voice was bigger than being able to do one-on-one. I had the capacity to start doing other things too. So I started teaming up with different organizations and different companies to try and put on these bigger scale exercise events. And that led to things such as this, which you do 3 times a year. We have 3 coming up this summer. At the end of the lecture, I'll tell you how you can sign up to be part of one of our free workouts. And this is what it looks like. A little louder, please, guys, if you can. Across the spectrum of the human body, there is no more powerful drug than exercise.
The amount of energy and life on top of the deck was incredible between the DJ and the natural energy of the crowd.
But doing it in a mass group like this, everybody at every level is really encouraged to find their next level, to push themselves, and it's just so remarkably powerful to see this happen. So I want doctors around the world to think about using exercise as something they don't just talk about, but actually teach to their patients. All right, so how do we get there? How do we start thinking about that? How do you start thinking about it in your communities, wherever you are? How do you start thinking about getting programs like that up and going? Well, C. Everett Koop was the Surgeon General of the United States, the 13th Surgeon General under George Bush, the first George Bush, and he made a really, I think, important quote, saying, quote, "Drugs don't work in patients who don't take them." Now, when it comes to the medicine I'm prescribing, which is the kind of get-off-your-butt medicine, I can tell them what to do till I'm blue in the face. But if they don't take my medicine, or if they don't take your medicine, if they don't work on the things you guys tell them to do and teach them to do, you can talk about it as much as you want. It's not going to make a bit of difference. So what are the ways we start to think about and recognize somebody's taking a drug? Well, how do we start thinking about this, and why does it make a difference? We know that if you have an acute sinus infection, you're very likely to take your antibiotics. If you have a urinary tract infection, you're very likely to take your antibiotics. If you have a chronic condition, we know that after about 6 weeks or so, you start to drop off. And basically, people with chronic disease and chronic medication use have about a 50% batting average, which is good if you're playing baseball, but bad if you're taking medicine, of sticking with their medication over the long term. So how do we get people to start taking the medicine they may not even want to take in the first place and encourage that behavior over a long period of time? What are the ways we can start looking at that? Well, certainly there are ways we can do that. When we start thinking about medicine from this article of the New England Journal of Medicine, we can say, we're going to watch you. We're going to watch you exercise. That's the best way to see. We're going to watch you take your blood pressure medication. We're going to watch you take your insulin. So that's one way, is just looking at somebody taking their medication. We can see the breakdown product of what they do. How much insulin, let's look at the breakdown of what they're doing, the breakdown product of the drug they're taking. We can see how much of that's in their blood, and we can see how effective that is. We can give them questionnaires. How often are you taking your medicine? How often are you exercising? But the problem is, everybody lies. Everybody lies when they say how much you exercise, and they tend to overestimate what they're doing. We can look at their clinical response, but again, that's difficult to kind of see because, clinical response, that maybe they're sleeping better, maybe they're eating better. There are a lot of factors which can play into the clinical response. And we can do things like seeing how many times they take off the bottle top to take their pills. That we do with medication, but lo and behold, we have these great new watches and tracking apps which are allowing us to start doing those same kind of things, which I'll talk about near the end in terms of where we're heading in the future with this discussion. So there's a lot of ways we can start thinking about this in a culture where health professionals are not trained nearly as well as anybody in this room to start thinking about exercise. Yes, we kind of talk about it, and we tell our patients to exercise a half hour a day, but I started getting into this field because I realized that I was super passionate and excited about exercise, and I was really ill-trained to start prescribing it. I really didn't know much about it, and there wasn't a lot of tools to start thinking about how to do that. What percentage of physicians speak to their patients about exercise? Well, many do. What percentage of physicians are comfortable? We started a seminar at Cornell Medical School about 4 years ago called Prescribing the Medicine of Exercise. We started looking for curriculum to put together for our second-year med student curriculum. It was really difficult to find a defined curriculum. There really wasn't much out there. So yes, we talk about exercise, but we need a better interface between the medical and fitness communities. We need to help each other to go beyond the gym is for healthy, doctor is for sick, to start thinking about making this liaison more effective. So what are some of the trends we see? This great cartoon from Gary Larson, who said at the top, "What we say to cats, well, Fluffy, you've clawed the furniture for the last time. I'll not tolerate that behavior any longer." And what the cats actually hear is nothing. So what are the trends? Well, in 2000, only 22% of patients received counseling and exercise. By 2010, it was up to 33%. The more educated the patients were, the more likely they were to get some kind of counseling around exercise. But again, that's not nearly good enough for what we need to start thinking about doing. And yet, despite that, more than 60% of physicians in training have no exercise training whatsoever. So we really have a big hole in the donut here with respect to what we're teaching people to go out and do. And this is in the face of a population which is becoming increasingly sedentary, when you can kind of wake up in the morning, open your phone, order breakfast, lunch, and dinner from your phone. If you're in a place without kind of a built-in neat profile, like New York City is great for activity, because if you want to get someplace, you're generally walking or taking public transportation or riding a city bike. If you're in Kansas City, where I grew up, you can get in your car, drive to work, drive to Costco, drive home. You never have to get out of your car. Very minimal walking. You have to build in exercise to part of what you do. So as we become technologically more advanced and able, the activity profile has actually gone down. And so ways to getting people to move are really, really important when we start thinking about that. Because if you were alive during the Paleolithic Stone Age era, you took about 25,000 steps a day. If you're Amish living in Pennsylvania, you take about 18,000 steps a day. These guys are trying to win down here in the front, and I support it. If you're in Colorado, the most active state in the United States, you take about 7,000 steps a day. Good job back there from Colorado. A few of you guys, excellent. If you're the average populace, you take about 5,000 steps or less per day. So getting people to be active and move is an important thing when we start thinking about this, and as we start thinking about disease, it becomes particularly important. This is a map put out by the CDC, which they do almost every year. The years 1994, 2000, 2010 are on the top of your map, looking at the progression of obesity. The light yellow is less than 14%. The dark red is greater than 26% of the population. You can see that map march across, including Virginia and Maryland. On the bottom, we see the rise of type 2 diabetes, or diabetes, the most expensive problem we have in the United States healthcare system. And as you see, as our population becomes less healthy, we see this progression towards disease. So we have become a diseased nation. And this diseased nation is increasingly inactive for those who have not drunk the Kool-Aid. Maybe Kool-Aid's the wrong drink to be talking about when we're talking about these issues, but that becomes part of the issue. And we're not only talking about diabetes, we're talking about things such as certain types of cancer, just put out by the CDC just this last year in 2017, looking at the progression of certain types of cancer and correlating that to the same issue with respect to obesity. And you can see this strong increase in cancer rates in these areas, again, which are afflicted with these issues. So this is an issue which really skirts huge parts of our population. And a lot of this is because we end up treating the problem after it's come through the dam. You guys are all in the business of hopefully addressing the water before it goes through the dam. And most physicians are in the business of treating the water after it's come through the dam. And so how do we start thinking collectively about doing that in an industry such as medicine, where we are spending $30 trillion in this time period, almost a 20-year time period, on 155 diseases, the most expensive being diabetes. In 2013, $101 billion a year. Cardiovascular disease, $88 billion. So almost $200 billion, much of which could be preventable with kind of encouraging these healthy behaviors. And we want to think about how we can make this. So that's the formula that kind of gets me to start thinking about what we can do to make a difference. And then we talk about this drug of exercise, which you guys are all here to learn more about over this weekend. And the point being that across the spectrum of human health, there's no drug as potent, accessible, and as effective as exercise. It works for every single person who takes it, young and old alike. And we all know the different ways this works, including reduction of a number of different health issues: depression, anxiety, sleep, dementia, reduction in the frequency of the common cold, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, hyperglycemia, diabetes, osteoporosis, osteoarthritic symptoms, 13 types of cancer, and a whole host of other problems related to daily and frequent exercise being the most effective drug across the spectrum of the human body. Now, why does this work? Well, there are some things we know: getting people moving, getting their musculoskeletal strength up, oxidizing tissues such as their brain. There's a lot of things we don't yet know about. Things such as they're working on across the street from our hospital at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Hospital, looking at the role of IL-6, a modulator which tends to direct white blood cell activity, influenced by exercise. If you're exercising frequently, your IL-6 is made by muscle. It seems to be profoundly anti-inflammatory. If you're not exercising, IL-6 seems to be made by fat. It seems to be profoundly pro-inflammatory. And pretty much every chronic disease, including breast cancer, seems to be very responsive to these IL-6 levels and where that's made. So again, there's things we're just learning about. The overall picture is that the more we get people to move, the better drug this can be. And so I'm going to introduce you to somebody who took this upon themselves to kind of start making this a different definition. We can make this a little bit louder, guys. Don't be shy.
My name is Lakeisha. I am overweight. I have low self-esteem. I am going through depression, and I want to change all of that. The next 100 days, I will be on the journey of losing weight and finding myself. I always just thought of myself as someone who was unattractive and was not fit to be married or have kids. I have a lot of other friends that are, moving in life and doing really great things, and I'm happy for them, but I still feel that I'm kind of stuck. I want you to see how one person really changes everything about their life. It is pouring cats and dogs and I think some beetles outside, but I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to go work my butt off. I am 2 pounds away from being out of the 300 club, and I am so excited. Today I am going to go and weigh myself. Today, I am going to show you something that I could not do a couple of months ago, but I can do now. I have to learn a lot of things, and there's still more to go, and I'm super excited to do it, and I hope you join me along the way.
Right? That's the story. So how do we want to get people moving? That's the argument. You guys know the argument. How do we get people moving? And I think the answer is together. The answer is together. That's how we get people moving. Let's check our Twitter board. Let's see how we're doing up here. I'm kind of curious to see if we got how we're doing up there. Looking good. Love it. All right. Oh, Alyssa, how you doing? It's one of my former patients. You in there somewhere? All right, good. So how do we get people moving? And the answer is together. Now, let's go back to the slides and we'll talk about the general concept. I want you to think about what we talk about at the ACSM, which is fitness, intensity, type, and time. This is the generic prescription, and it works for some people. What I've found, though, is it works for people who've drunk the Kool-Aid or who intermittently drink the Kool-Aid. It doesn't work as well for people who are not motivated to do it. So this is a great prescription for those who already have bought into the concept and are consistent. It doesn't work as well on the motivational side. ACSM talks about 5 times per week, 30 minutes a day, whatever you can do, 3 times a week of intensity for 25 minutes. Talks about strength, which is certainly very helpful. Talks about flexibility, though that's like a lot of flexibility. If anybody can do that, then I'll be seeing you in my office, I guess. And we talk about balance, the importance of balance for prevention, which is all certainly very important. But for me, it became an issue of, listen, I love doing my activities. I love doing marathons. I love doing the Ironman. I love being active. And then I'm a sports medicine doctor. And the typical path of the sports medicine doctor was kind of like go stand on the sideline of the sports team, go stand on the sideline of the, whatever team, which is great. But I was like, all right, I'm helping one athlete who's being paid this amount of money. There's like a whole population that I want to get moving. So is there a way to start thinking about this differently? And so the question was, what can I do to help get people moving more? And there's a lot of reasons why people don't actively engage in group fitness, and I'm a big proponent of group fitness for the kind of things I'm after. So I certainly appreciate the importance of working one-on-one with somebody to improve all the things that you can do more intensively when you're working one-on-one with somebody. But in terms of the big picture of getting populations going, I think group fitness is certainly the piece that I've certainly found to be the most helpful. So there's a number of reasons why people have a tough time being involved in group fitness, psychologically, structurally, economically, that prevent people from joining these types of programs. So the concept was to develop a free, self-sustaining community to prescribe exercise vis-a-vis preventive wellness. So I'm going to tell you what's worked for us, hopefully to help thinking about what can work for you guys. A little bit louder, guys, if you can, if it's possible. Right? So we can all, especially, dude, it's going to freaking snow on Saturday. We can all relate to this concept of, getting off the sofa is the initial part. And getting people out the door, getting them off the couch, I think is our first challenge, which is easier said than done. So the concept was to develop a kind of physician-led fitness classes and programs. Now, what I would say to begin with is that you guys do fitness. I do, knees and shins and ankles and backs. You guys do fitness. So to kind of delve into your world, I realized I didn't know anything. And I knew what I liked to do, but I didn't know anything about fitness really. And yet I felt like my role as a doctor was kind of unique, not because I was going to become a full-time fitness instructor, because I wasn't, but I wanted to kind of start thinking of what I could use my platform for to kind of take some of the things that I thought I could do differently to help kind of get people inspired. So why do that? Where to do it? When? How? What to do to make it effective? Who's going to come to these things? And these were all questions when I started doing this about 6 years ago that I had no idea. I didn't know I would end up doing that stuff on the Intrepid. I thought, I like doing this stuff myself. And the truth of the matter was, I love doing the Ironman, and I do it every year with my brother, and I started doing these jump squats, and I started kicking his butt. And I was like, my God, if I do plyometrics, I can kill my brother in the Ironman. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start doing plyometrics all the time. I'm going to start a class. And then all of a sudden, we started a whole kind of concept. But the idea is that performance is the initial thing that started me with this concept. So when I started putting this stuff together, the first thing was developing a workout. So for me, it was all about functional strength training. I wanted to get the most personally out of my stuff, and I didn't realize then that I'd start prescribing it to my patients. So if you came in to see me about 9-10 years ago with an achy knee, I was probably going to send you to a physical therapist, which I still do a lot now. But then, as I started learning about this stuff, I started saying, you know what? I'm going to write you a prescription for jump squats in your room. And then I'm going to film a little video on your iPhone for jump squats in your room. And then I'm going to make a video and have you kind of download this on your YouTube and start doing this in your room. And the concept was getting people to start becoming autonomous in what they were doing, all around the concept of functional strength that was easy to do, was basically free, had limited injury risk, was effective in building functional strength, was very much kinetic chain focused, and I really recognized early on the importance of intensity, that if people are in a group, they want to work. And so what are some of the parameters around that became very helpful and instructive, I think were important. So we knew a lot about strength acquisition. We knew that plyometric training improves strength and jumping ability. We knew that plyometric training is as effective for strength acquisition as resistance training. We knew that muscle weakness is associated with higher injury rates. So we knew a lot about the role of strength. But what about intensity? Didn't really recognize that as much. I knew that when I was in a race, I was intense, but I didn't really recognize about the role of intensity in training. what I started to recognize was that A, people started coming to these classes who were not runners and triathletes. They were everyday people that wanted to be part of a community of being active. And B, everybody started working a lot more effectively when they were together. So whether we're in front of the Capitol building or we're in this room, when we're collectively together, we're going to work a lot better together than we do individually. Now, the science around intensity that Martin Gabala is going to be talking about over the course of the weekend is a lot about the role of intensity training for effectiveness of exercise. So things such as this study published in Cell Metabolism in 2017, looking at protein translation and metabolic adaptations to exercise in young, meaning under 25, older, over 64 humans, and comparing those two populations to HIIT training, resistance training, or combined training, asking the question, what's the most effective form of exercise? Is it high-intensity interval training? Is it resistance weight training? Is it some combined of those things over an 8-week period of time? Looking at young between 18 and 30, and older between 65 and 80, men and women. 4 days a week of HIIT at 90% VO2 max, and then 2 days of kind of slow, steady state treadmill, resistance training, 4 sets of 8 to 12 reps, upper, lower body, 6 days a week, and combine some combination of both those things, looking at what's the most effective way to exercise. And this study looked at a number of different things. The most compelling was this look at mitochondrial muscle protein. This is the young resistance group lifting just weights, before in the yellow, after in the red. The older resistance group, again, some increase before versus after the 8-week period of time. Young HIIT, not a huge difference before and after. Older HIIT, over 65. In our classes, we have people up into their 80s that come do burpees. There's a lady that shows up, she's 83, and she's awesome at burpees. And she's part of our fitness community. And she does the same exercises that her grandkid does. And it's just amazing to kind of see that and see how effective it is. What about genetic expression, also published in 2017? HIIT and gene expression, a 12-week HIIT program, people under 30 versus over 64, looking at the expression genes for aging. Is there a fountain of youth? You bet. It's called intensity. HIIT, I'm actually 97 years old. No, just kidding. But HIIT under 30, 275 genes expressing themselves. HIIT over 64, more than 400 genes related to anti-aging expressing themselves. So the concept of intensity across the spectrum of what we see is so compelling. And you need look no further than this awesome guy who was profiled in 2017. Anybody from France in here? Any French? Good. So you know about this guy, a 105-year-old cyclist, Robert Marchand, who's in the south of France. He was actually studied starting at age 100 because he started setting world records in the over 100 biking category. Retired carpenter. Now, I don't know who he was, to be honest, I don't know who else was in the category of over 100, but he was definitely setting records in the over 100 group and started looking at this guy. They basically got to him, the Department of Physiology got to him at age 101 and said, listen, you've done a great job for the first 101 years of your life. We're going to start putting intensity into what you do. And so they started giving him 80% in a self-perceived exertion scale between 1 and 20 at 12, and then 20% at 15 plus on his bike. So huffing and puffing harder on his bike. At age 104, his VO2 max increased 20%. Right? So read that report. Study this guy. Pretty amazing about the role of intensity at any age. What about collectively in groups? Studied in biology in 2009 called Rowers High. 12 rowers at Oxford, individually taken into a room and told to max their erg, then collectively put together told to max their erg. About a 15 to 20% difference in terms of pain tolerance and workload collectively together versus individually by themselves. Community makes a big difference. So when I started thinking about developing a workout concept, I had no credibility at all. I had a lot of credibility as a sports medicine doctor, no credibility as a fitness instructor, none. How did I start forming a group? Why should people start coming? So people were used to doctors seeing patients in their office, and they were very used to doctors standing on the sideline taking care of hurt knees. They were not used to doctors starting to do the kind of stuff I was interested in, but I really felt strongly that the concept of preventive health or exercise wasn't something we only wanted to talk about, it's something we wanted to do. So I was really committed to starting to make this thing work. So started doing it and started the workout, and then we started growing a group. This is one of our workouts a couple years ago, and it always makes me think that when I look at this picture, there's people in this picture, people in the bright yellow shirts have different disabilities. There's a couple of blind people there who are blind runners and people who are guiding them. There are people in this group, all of whom are there for different reasons. Some people want to get more fit. Some people want community. Some people want to run a marathon. Some people want to go ballroom dancing. But everybody's there for a different reason. But the key to growing this was a lot about community. So recruiting people, developing an audience, getting people compliant. Again, I told you at the beginning that more than 50% of the, if you've taken the drug more than 6 weeks, you have about a more than 50% drop off of that drug. I want you taking this drug for years, not just for weeks. So what are the things that made a difference with this growing the group? Well, making it social, making it fun, making it consistent with results seemed to make the biggest difference for us. What do we know about social contagion? The concept of being social, being more likely to be part of an exercise program. This was actually studied last year in Israel, published through a combination of Israel and MIT, looking at a study called Exercise Contagion, published in Nature in 2017. 5 years of data on Strava, mining 1.1 million runners. They were social friends. So they weren't really friends, they were, I guess, Facebook friends, whatever that is. They logged 350 million miles, looking at their frequency, how often they ran, how far they went, and how fast they went. This is what we found. This is what they found. So day 1 of when you went for a run are the lines on the far left-hand side of the graph. Day 2 are the day after, and day 3 are 2 days after the thing. So you kind of look at what happens days after in terms of the effect of distance, pace, duration, and calories. For every 1 kilometer your friends would run, you'd run 0.3 of a mile further because you were influenced by what they were doing. For every 10 minutes longer they exercised, you exercised 3 minutes longer. This seemed to have diminishing effects the further out from the day it happened, and women seemed to be more susceptible to this behavior of peer influence than men. But overall, there was a positive correlation between having fit friends. So you want to be active? Get people who are active together. Have fit friends. Have fit communities. Get people who are less active involved in communities where people who are more active to try and improve activity among all. So our community started changing. When we first started, it was people who did triathlons and marathons that came out to wake up at 6 in the morning and do hills and jump squats in Central Park. And it started changing to the age. People brought their kids. People brought their parents. People brought their grandparents in terms of what people look like, their body anthropomorphic measurements. We had thin people, overweight people, average people. We had all kinds of people, muscly people, skinny people. There was a huge kind of cohort of people, all of whom were very, very different. What seemed to be making a difference as we grew our group? Fun. When you guys are training your people, when you're doing your group fitness classes, make sure you're having fun. Fun makes a difference, and it's been studied here in psychology in 2015. Compliance seems to be related to people laughing and having a good time. So when we start setting up our programs, we want to make sure people are always laughing and always having a good time. So does fun make a difference was the question in this study published in Germany in 2015. 24 participants and 17 controls. The participants were studied, this was over an 8-week period of time, and in the enjoyment group, there were 45 participants, average age of 46, women to men 6-1, and the fun group had enjoyment-focused training. They were having a great time. They basically were in a group almost all the time. They had positive feedback. You're doing great. You look great. Good job. Keep up the good work, but in German. They had intensity somewhat. They had an advance of what they were going to do about their workout, and they had diversity of training. They did different types of experiences at different time. The non-fun group was kind of emphasized on fitness. The parameters were get more cardiorespiratory fitness, more resistance exercise, more flexibility, more neuromotor. No fun, no social cues, no laughing, no smiling. So basically intervention and control. Intervention group on the top, control group on the bottom. So started in terms of minutes, 68.9 minutes versus 70.2 minutes. After 8 weeks, the intervention group 71.3 versus 65.8, so a statistically significant difference over 8 weeks of time in terms of what those differences seem to make a difference, as well as exercise frequency, 7.9 times per week versus 7.2 times per week in terms of being wanting to go. So fun makes a huge difference when you start thinking about these things. And I want you to think about the role of fun when you start thinking about what you do. So limitations for step 2. Doctors don't do that. This is kind of weird. Why would you do that? We started growing. We said, we started with 10 people in the basement of a gym. Then we started growing 30 people, 40, 100. All of a sudden, New York City was like, you can't show up in Central Park with 100 people. So we had to go through the permitting office of the New York City, this New York City government to get permits for $25 a workout, to get permits so we could show up in Central Park and have a workout. So the whole concept of what we were doing started kind of growing as we started growing this group. I think I'm the only doctor that I know of that has fitness insurance, which you guys all have. No doctors have it. I have fitness insurance because there was a liability question, so I bought fitness insurance for the year. So there were a lot of questions as this thing started growing and becoming more of an issue. Then we wanted to spread the word. Then we wanted to grow it out, and we wanted to start building partnerships. And I would say the biggest step going from a small thing to a bigger thing was partnering, which is why I feel strongly that for us to kind of grow this concept together, we need to all work together and collaborate, because partnerships with brands, partnerships with different fitness professionals, Zumba teachers, yoga teachers, Pilates teachers. We started doing all kinds of different things that I'll show you in a second that seem to help our message grow and resonate. So we started collecting emails and social media and social sharing, and we started picking different venues. And I'm bummed about the U.S. Capitol, but we started picking great inspirational venues to get people excited and started figuring out partnerships to get people excited about being part of what we're doing. We went from a listserv of about 30 people to 34,000 people. We started hosting these workouts several times a month, and now we have them almost every week. And people started coming in the middle of winter. We started growing our social profile around the hashtag IronStrength, which was what we started doing in terms of kind of growing and developing what we were about and what we were doing. And lo and behold, we saw kind of social media spike, and we saw these kind of real significant shifts in the way people started spreading the message. Our social sharing seemed to really make a difference. We'll check in on you guys, not yet, but in a little bit. And that seemed to make a big difference as we started growing and using social media to kind of spread the word of what we were trying to do. Now, this was a good concept, but then all of a sudden other groups started doing it too. So all of a sudden other people said, oh, that's cool, we should start doing that. So there was people starting to do the same concept. In the winter, we started to figure out inside, and then we said, screw it, we're going to go outside. So we've been going outside all winter long, doing workouts in the snow and the cold and everything, because winter was great. Keeping people engaged was a lot of fun as we started doing that. And finally, we started thinking about motivation. How do we keep people motivated in what we do? Well, certainly fun, results, community, corporate partnerships, people wanted a reason. And so we started our IronStrength for a Cause program, where every fourth workout, they're always free. Every fourth workout, people donate $25 when we pick an area nonprofit, and all the money goes right to that nonprofit. And that seemed to make a big difference, particularly with our millennial group, who wanted to feel like they were kind of doing something beyond just doing a thing. And that seemed to really grow and develop our audience. Now, we know financial incentive is a way people are starting to look at changing behavior. It's been studied. The American Journal of Preventive Medicine made a position statement in 2013 saying less than 50% of Americans meet recommended activity profiles, meta-analysis of 11 studies, 2012, 2013. But we are all glorified lab rats. If you give us the sugar water, we will do what you ask us to do. So how do we start thinking about what kind of incentive it is that will make you make a difference? And what this guy did, Joseph Fulp, looking at the VA hospital in Philadelphia, he started basically paying people to be active and lose weight. And if he paid them even as little as $15 a week, they started totally changing their behavior versus people with the same education not getting any reinforcement at all. Digital communities, looking at different ways. You guys are looking at incentivizing activity using different apps where you can track what your not your patients, but what your clients are doing. Seems to make a big difference in terms of getting people motivated. We've done a lot of stuff with kind of digital workouts. We did a whole 9-minute workout, which we'll end up doing here on Saturday, since we're going to be indoors, looking at kind of just short, intense periods of exercise and using different platforms like the Times with this one to try and get people to start doing these kind of things. And the tech interface in fitness is growing. There's a whole session here I saw on tech fitness interface that I think was the 10 best apps for a trainer to know about. And I think that's a great session because, looking at things such as stride counting for the metronome, different apps designed to track how much you move, what your run mechanic might look like. The greatest app I think of all time is Help I'm Being Chased by a Zombie. I hope that's one of the 10. Yoga apps, training apps, different trackers, all designed to kind of bridge this tech fitness interface. Remember, I talked about monitoring how many times people are opening the pill bottle. We're entering an era where we're going to monitor how much you're doing based on, you show up with your doctor, height, weight, blood pressure. You may see how many steps you took that week, that month, that year. That may be great information we may look at going forward. What we found was diversity made a difference. We didn't do the same workout every time. This was last June. We had a workout with the Nick City Dancers in Herald Square. We had a morning run and plyometrics class. We did a workout around the Sea Lion tank in Central Park Zoo. And then we did an Intrepid workout on the flight deck of the Intrepid. At the end, I'll tell you guys how to sign up, but these are always about getting people to think about different types of things. This is what some of this looks like. This was a class where people gave us these ugly sunglasses, and everybody loved putting on these ugly sunglasses. This is one of our nighttime yoga classes on the Intrepid flight deck, having a bunch of people doing yoga at once. This is one of our workouts in Central Park where people brought their kids. It was a lot of fun. This is the workout around the sea lion tank with the kind of sea lions hopping around. I learned the difference between a seal and a sea lion, which I don't know if anybody know that, but if you do, good job. They were kind of hopping around watching us do planks. We started putting balloons in, where the goal is to keep your balloon in the air and keep your butt off the ground. We may try this in here on Saturday, actually. So this was like in October in Central Park. She's very intense. So last balloon standing gets a prize. Again, think about fun, think about community, and getting different instructors who have different specialties, such as our great, from Dominican Republic, Zumba teacher. And this guy in the red, who's actually a very, very famous journalist, when his daughter, who's now in college, saw that still, she's been giving him just, you know what, for like months about this awesome overbite picture right there. But that's how it goes. But getting people out there doing stuff they may not want to do is really important. So when we kind of took that collective, we started studying our population. We have a 34,000 person listserv, now 35,000. We can start asking questions about what seems to work, what seems to make a difference. So we started looking at and surveying our population to ask what seemed to make a difference. Well, these are who's coming, and they're kind of a whole, it's like New York City. It's a cross-section of people. It's married, it's single, it's domestic partners, it's all kinds of things. These are kind of their education. They tend to be kind of overachieving New Yorkers, but not always. Their age range throughout, you see all the way from 20 to over 60. We see what they do, how many times they've come. They've come less than 5. Some have come more than 20. We see how they've learned about what we've done. Social media is a big part of that, among other things. We've seen why they come to this class, improve my fitness, improve my health, and have fun. Some of the things that other people have found as well. We've seen what kind of things they typically do. Gone are the days when you go to the gym and do one thing. It's a challenge many of you guys are facing. They want to do ClassPass. They want to do 9,000 things in a week. They want to do aerial yoga, and then they want to do Pilates, and then they want to do a boot camp class, and they want to go for a run. How do you keep up with that? How do you become part of that discussion and stay relevant in that situation? It's hard. So, how do we keep you guys doing that? How do we all keep people, enthusiastic about that? Because these are some of the things they like to do. And from my perspective, we asked the last question was, is the physician involvement in this important? And that was the strongest. That was a 98% yes on that, which was physicians being involved, not only saying go exercise, but actually setting up and being part of the exercise seemed to make a very big difference. So to conclude, yes, we know it, and exercise is medicine, and thank goodness for the ACSM kind of starting this concept and really getting that word out there. But now I think we're at a place where we have to start thinking about taking that message and not only talking about it, but implementing it. And what are some of the strategies to work with health professionals to start making this message and taking this message to the next level? Because prescription is not only saying do this, I found it to be way more effective of doing it with. Not only saying it, be part of the discussion, part of the process. Because I want to work together to encourage people, us and you and everybody, to get people active and moving. So our website is there. On that website, you will see our IronStrength calendar and get emails about our classes. I've left a whole series of cards and different cards, book cards, etc., out on the desk on the way in. I'm happy to answer some questions, and I want to say it's such a true honor to give the keynote opening remarks for this conference. I wish everybody a great conference. I look forward to meeting every single person here. Thank you very much. we have time for a couple questions?
Yes, we have time for a couple questions, so if you don't mind approaching the mic to ask your questions.
Don't be shy. Just hop right up to the mic there so everybody can hear you. Whoop.
Have you given this?
Just start talking, they got you. Just start talking right there, they got you.
Have you given this presentation to any of your healthcare colleagues at a professional meeting?
So the question is, have we given it to help? Yes, I've given this talk at several medical meetings, and it's very well received. I think the problem is people know enough to talk about it, and they certainly know enough to prescribe it. They don't know enough to know what they don't know. And so what I tell them is, you guys have to start learning about this stuff. What I tell you guys is, you guys have to go show them what they don't know. They don't even know they need you. They just say, go to physical therapy or whatever. Like, they don't know they need you. They don't know what you do. They don't know how you can help them. They don't know that if you have like a personal trainer who's dedicated to building strength, physical therapy can get an injury better, but are they in an ongoing relationship for months and years? No, it's a different thing. So I feel like on their side, they need to learn. On your side, you have to go tell them what you do, and don't give up. Find people that get your message, and they will learn, all right? That's my message to that side of it.
Yes, what are your thoughts on the problem we have right now is that healthcare is subsidized if they go to the doctor, but it's not subsidized if they go, to a fitness. And I just see this as so deep and profound in my patients and clients, that they kind of go to the doctor because, I'm paying for this or they. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think the question on what motivates people to be there, and yes, you're going to have people who, no matter what you do and no matter what you say, they're not going to participate. But what I surprisingly found in kind of growing this program was that I thought I was making a program to beat my brother in the Ironman. That's what I thought I was doing. I didn't realize I was making a program where people who didn't exercise at all were inspired by the people who exercised all the time, and people who exercise all the time were inspired by people who are just trying to make a difference in their life and exercise. And so what I found was that by making it fun and community-based, those things did not seem to make as big of a difference. And now we're starting to go, like we're doing a big program in the Bronx in June at the YMCA in the Bronx. And the YMCA is having us do a whole fitness day around kind of the underserved community in the Bronx. And so it's really kind of growing in ways I didn't anticipate. Am I going to get every single person? No. But am I going to get some people who might not be motivated or might not be exposed? Definitely. And so I think that's what it's kind of grown into. Not what I expected, but I think the fun and community piece is the answer, or at least part of that.
Well, that's very encouraging. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Metzl. Great talk.
Thank you.
Do you think it would be helpful for fitness professionals as far as personal trainers or strength coaches to reach out to physicians so that where they find maybe they have a patient who's exhibiting hypertension or prediabetes, they can write them a prescription to see a personal trainer? Because I know a lot of people, are nervous about going to the gym, gym intimidation, all of that, or they don't know where to start.
Thank you for asking that question. And the answer to that's absolutely yes. And here's what I would suggest. The best way to make that happen is to train a doctor. I'd say, listen, I want you to recognize how valuable this is to your patients. So I'm going to train you for a half hour or 45 minutes. You're going to come meet me, whatever. And I don't want to give you a business card, and I don't want to buy you a tuna fish sandwich. I want you, or sushi, I want you to work out with me for 45 minutes, and I want you to understand what you don't know. Or I want you to try this and see what you think. I think people, when they have the experience of doing it, everybody is conditioned, knee pain, physical therapy, knee pain, physical therapy. And again, I have changed a lot of that in my practice personally, but in terms of beyond physical therapy, it doesn't exist, but it should. And so I often will, I'm very much interested in fostering that kind of relationship, and I think the best way to do it is find people that will listen, find people that are receptive, and the absolute best way is train somebody. If you train somebody once or twice, and that will be a great investment in your time and your effort.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for your talk. I'm also a physician, and I wanted to offer some exercise classes for my patients, but my concern as an obstetrician gynecologist was the liability. So my question is, what kind of companies provide fitness insurance, and how much does it cost?
It's actually really inexpensive, and it's very easy to find. And it's not very much at all per year. It's a separate thing than Because initially I thought I'm just going to go through my medical liability, but it's a separate track. It's not that much, and it covers you for any fitness-related stuff for the year. I'm happy to talk to you afterwards, but it's very easy to find and very easy to do. Not daunting at all.
I think we just have time for one last question. And then I think maybe Dr. Metzl's people could talk to you after.
Absolutely,
if they don't have
dude.
a
You're going to be
chance.
sick of me at the end of this thing. No problem.
Dr. Metzl, I couldn't help but think that this is a concept, the IronStrength success of your program, that you might want to see spread to other cities. And I wondered if thought is being given to how you might, or the people you work with in IronStrength might come up with a way of sharing their experience on how to get it going.
That's a great question. And the answer is I've thought about spreading this, and I've had a couple different thoughts on that. I think that there's not, on the medical side, there are people who are interested in this concept, but they're interested for a while and not, over years. And so the thoughts are spreading it. I think a combination of, at least what we found and where we are is a combination of fitness professionals and health professionals together seems to make this grow the most. And that may be the way to start thinking about it. I'm definitely interested. And then the other thing we thought about was kind of virtual spreading, but I think doing it in person would be the best. And I would love to think about ways to do that. I've thought about it. I've had different presentation decks. I've talked to different companies about it, but I've not yet figured out the right formula. But maybe this weekend you can figure out the right formula. We'll figure out the way to do it. All right, good. Now, Kaylin, are you still here? Do we have any winners for our... Kaylin, oh, there she is. We got some winners? Let's put, we got our social media wall up there. We got, how many winners do we have?
We're going to do 2 winners for your books tonight, and I'll let you pick your other ones on Saturday.
Okay, so we're giving away 2. Perfect. So these 2 winners, well, she's my patient. You can't pick Alyssa. No, she... All right, Alyssa, are you still in here? When she was a kid, she was my patient. All right, Alyssa, if she's still in here. So I'm going to give away, the first 2 books I'll give away is our running book with Runner's World called Running Strong. And Judy, so Alyssa Palladino, are you still in here, Alyssa? Dude, she even left. All right, we're not giving it to Alyssa, dude. She was my patient a long time ago, and you got find me another winner. All right, fine. So here's who we're going to give. Where's Judy? Judy Castaro? Judy, congratulations. All right. So Judy is going to get the copy on Saturday. You'll take it. We're going to leave. Nobody steal the books till then. You're going to get you get first choice of which book you get out there. You can go look through and survey your winnings. Your choice number 1. And Ryan Davis, dude, is Ryan in here? Congratulations. You look out there. After Judy, you get choice 2. All right. So you guys discuss amongst yourselves who gets what, but just leave them there till Saturday. Nobody take them. I'll see you at the reception, which is coming up.
The Expo.
The Expo. See you up there. Thank you very much.
The Expo is opening. Thank you.
The Expo is open.